Okay, and we got it. Go for it. Go for it. I'll give you
What time is it?
Time for Gezintahait Street.
It is time for Gezintahait Street. And the story for tonight is titled, What Time Is It? Hey, can you get it? Hey, kids, what time is it? The name of the story is What Time Is It? The previous Rebbe tells us in his journal that he had no pocket watch when he was in prison. The only way he could know the approximate time was from the guard's announcements. Bread was given at 7:30 a.m. Hot water at 8:30. The midnight bread was also provided at a certain time, as was the afternoon hot drink. And similarly, the order from the guards to sleep was at a designated time. Immediately after noting the lack of a watch in his journal, the previous Rebbe related a midrash about Moshe Rabbeinu. While Moshe Rabbeinu for 40 days was on Mount Sinai, the only way he could tell what time it was, he knew it was daytime when he heard the angels sing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts." And he knew it was night when he heard the next chorus of angels sing, "Bless his glory from its place. For a kavod, Hashem imakomo." The previous Rebbe had his journal published so that future generations would learn lessons in serving Hashem. First glance, a Rebbe says, the midrash about Moshe appears unconnected to the previous Rebbe's incarceration. In fact, they're opposite in nature. The previous Rebbe was sitting in jail for spreading and strengthening Judaism. He was in a terrible place, and he was so constricted, he could not even tell the correct time. The jailers did this purposely, to let him know he had no individual freedom at all. He was not even allowed to know if it was day or night. Moshe on Har Sinai, on the other hand, was higher than any limits. In fact, his entire existence was in learning Torah directly from Hashem, to the point he didn't eat and he didn't drink for 40 days. A Rebbe explains why the previous Rebbe cited this midrash in his journal right after he said that he himself had no watch. He was addressing those times when a Jew sees bad in the world. Like the Rebbe who was jailed for educating Jewish children about their heritage. The previous Rebbe certainly had faith in Hashem's unity. He knew there was and is none besides Hashem, and no place empty of Hashem. Not in the heavens above, not in the four directions of the world, and every place in between. As our sages taught, Hashem appeared to Moshe in a small bush to teach him that nothing, not even an insignificant bush, is devoid of Hashem. Accordingly, the previous Rebbe recorded in his journal that when he was asked a certain question during interrogation, he answered, there is none besides Hashem. One could ask, since Hashem is essentially good, how can any bad come from him? After all, it's the nature of a good one to do good. The existence of evil, therefore, appears to contradict the unity of Hashem. To answer this question, the Rebbe cited the midrash about Moshe, who was able to distinguish time from the songs of the angels. Why did Moshe need to know the difference between day and night? He was all tied up with learning Torah from Hashem. What should have mattered to him was day or night? He was higher than time. But our purpose is to draw down what's higher than time, which is the Torah, into time. That is to bring the Torah as a reality in this world. To empower us to accomplish this, Moshe needed to be connected to time, even though he was on a level higher than time. He was with Hashem on Har Sinai. So too, when a Jew is confined in a narrow place, such as a locked cell, he does not view a situation as a contradiction to Hashem's unity. Rather, he connects the situation to higher than time, the level of motion. That's what the Frierdiker Rebbe did. And this will help bring about his salvation and release, as we saw with the previous Rebbe. In the Torah, Hashem told Moshe to hang the figure of a snake on a high pole, so that all those who were bitten by a snake could gaze at it and live. The Jew must view a serpent not as it is down here, but like it is on high. Between this advice and the spark of Moshe in the soul of every Jew, you'll have the strength to transform the snake from a messenger of death to something that enlivens. So too in our case, we are confined in a non-Jewish land, under the rule of a non-Jew, a true contradiction. But we should see the situation the way it is on high, higher than the world. As the previous Rebbe taught, we must think, Hashem brought me to these depths to see how I will conduct myself in this narrow place. In addition, the Rebbe connected his incarceration, his being in the narrow place, with Moshe on the mountain, higher than time. Through that connection, the previous Rebbe was able to leave that confinement. He finally got out. He became revealed as a prince, like his namesake, Joseph, who left jail and became the virtual ruler of the most powerful country in the world at that time. And this is the lesson for all of us. Sometimes a Jew is not his own boss. He cannot learn Torah as much as he wants. He cannot give charity due to causes out of his control. He complains to Hashem, I want to help others, but it's impossible. You gave me a mitzvah, I want to do it, but I can't accomplish it. I want to spread Torah in a certain place, but there are those who put obstacles in the way. We tell him, don't be downcast. Don't give up. Don't lose your faith in the unity of Hashem. Know that it's a test. Stand up and recognize that a lock cell, the lowest place possible, partners with the very highest level, Moshe on the mountain. Finally, when you withstand the test, you'll be granted light and dynamic life in your service to Hashem. What should we have, a nigga now, Lee?
Yeah, Bezalel, I heard you say something about a snake.
Yeah, but a snake, a real high one.
Look who slithered into the room.
Well, Bezalel, I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question. So you were talking about how you can take something and make it into something light from something dark, right? How you can take a snake and a snake can bite and a snake can heal. So how does a Yetzer Hara like me, right? Because, you know, my job's a little dirty, all right? I have a dirty job. Well, how do I take that and make that into something good, Bezalel?
The thought that came to my mind is that you have to do what you do, but I have to make it into something good. I have to realize that the reason why you're here slugging me up is so that I should reach a new higher level in godly service.
No, Bezalel.
And then you will have done your job.
I have an allegory for that, a mushal.
Oh,
It's like, you know, there's a guy in the Toyota factory. There's a guy in the Toyota factory, and his job is just to make door handles. And if he's gonna go, oh wait, why am I making door handles? It's just a bent piece of metal. I want to make a car. Well, it's not, the factory's not gonna work good. His job is to make door handles, then another guy's job is to put that door handle on the car. How do you like that? It's the same thing. My job is to try to get people, hey, Froggy, how about forget about that stuff Bezalel's saying, and let's play rock and roll. And then Froggy goes, okay, let's play rock and roll. But he plays a rock and roll niggin. I'm like, that's not what I was expecting. Speaking of which, you got a niggin, Froggy?
It was nice seeing Marvin, no?
very nice.
He was on vacation for a while. ודברו משמן והימו
The house there. I didn't know Anshe Domi. I thought it was Anshe Davi.
People of blood and how do you say mirma, like the deceitful?
Bitter, no?
Mirror,
Deceitful. I think it's
bitter,
mirma, not
yeah,
deceitful.
mirror,
People who
mirror.
are bloody and deceitful or something like that.
All right.
I don't know, something like
Yeah,
that.
bloody man.
Every person asks himself.
I think it comes from like Mirama. It could come from Mar. I think Mirama, like a Rama, a trickster.
Every
Somebody's a
person
trickster.
asks himself at some point, who am I?
Mere mom.
Have you ever asked yourself, who am I? The previous Rebbe says every person finally asks himself, who am I? And that's called a person who focuses the intellect. He's called a bar das. We also have to ask ourselves, who are we?
You mean
The
like who
answer-
are we together? Like us?
Yes,
us
us.
also?
The answer is we are the tribe, the congregation of Chabad Chassidus. And to lay a strong foundation for that answer, we need to start by answering what is Chabad. Chabad is intellect, it's brains. Brains also include how the intellect measures out what emotional response should I have to this idea. And that's called the emotions of the intellect. But the main thing of intellect is the point. The main thing of any existence is its point.
You mean as in what's the point?
Intellect brings out a wide landscape in whatever it looks into. For example, steam, which is produced by pouring water onto fire, that's an idea, that's a point. And that intellectual realization can be applied in many applications, like grinding wheat or running a train or a ship. The main thing is the point of this technology is that pouring water on fire creates steam to make power. And also on a spiritual level, everything needs an introductory beginning. Like in our physical example of water and fire. And without it, there could be no growth. You can't figure out how to use it. Once on Purim, the Rebbe Mirage told the Torah from the Alter Rebbe, which the Alter Rebbe heard from the Maggid of Medrash, explaining the importance of introductions. But first, we'll have a story to introduce those introductions. When the Alter Rebbe first came to the Maggid of Medrash, he studied with the Maggid's son, who was called the Angel, Rabbi Abraham. The Alter Rebbe taught the Angel the revealed aspects of Torah, Nigla, and the Angel taught the Alter Rebbe Kabbalah. The first Mishnah of the Talmud begins with a question: from what time can we say Shema at night? The Hebrew word for what time, hey kids, what time is it, is closely related to the Hebrew word for fear, Ema. When the Malach heard the Talmud's question, from what time, he said, yes, exactly. The Shema prayer has to be done with fear. And that way we'll be able to listen to one who's telling us the command that we should listen. And he fell into a trance of unification with God. Now back to important introductions. The Alter Rebbe learned from the Maggid that everything needs an introduction. And we want to know what Chabad is, and that needs an introduction. The introduction to the written Torah, that's like the Torah scroll that we read, is the blank, empty space before the writing starts. And that blank space indicates the essential hidden godly light of the Torah, which cannot be contained or revealed through written letters. So the blank space of the parchment indicates the essential light of godliness that's in the Torah that can't be expressed through letters. The introduction to the oral Torah is, like we said, the first Mishnah. From what time at night can we accomplish the commandment of saying the Shema? The way Chassidus translates that thing, from what time in the evening can we say Shema? At the time when the Kohanim go in to eat their truma. Like we said, the word for what time is the same as the word for fear. And through revealing fear and awe, we can properly say the Shema prayer. Listen, Israel. We listen to the one commanding us. At evening. What is at evening? What time do we say the Shema in the evening? The word for evening can also be read as sweet, erev. Night represents a dark and bitter world without godly revelation. We turn that bitterness into sweetness of divine revelation. How do we turn over the bitterness of evening, of darkness, into sweetness of light? Through unifying Hashem, through the Shema, Hashem Echad. Through our saying Shema Yisroel. The phrase at what hour, at what time, at what hour can we say the Shema at night? That word can be translated as turning toward. Hashem turns toward us through the service of the Kohanim, of the priests. And we all comprise that level of service. Just like they were served Hashem in holiness, so too we can serve Hashem in holiness. We serve the Holy One. How is that service done by the Kahanim? When they go in to eat their truma. Eating means to internalize. Truma means that which is higher. So when they go in to eat their truma, they're able to internalize that which is higher than them. And we also have the ability to do that. Rebbe Zusha would repeat this Torah everywhere he went, revealing the hidden love for Hashem in everyone he taught it to. Continuing with the theme of self-awareness, who am I? The Rambam teaches that the stars have a high level of intelligence and spiritual sensitivity. They recognize, number one, themselves, who am I? They recognize the angels that are higher than them. And they recognize people who are also intelligent, but who are on a lower level of intelligence than the stars and the angels. The stars and angels have a greater realization of godliness than people. But those stars realize that people are intelligent, and they realize there's a higher level of intelligence called the angels. In the book called Imre Bina by the Midler Rebbe, it explains a higher level of intellectual realization, which is that every existing entity has 6 dimensions: north, east, west, and south, and up and down. The Rebbe Rashab added that each really has 12, because everything has an inner and an outer dimension. So there's 6 of the inner dimension and 6 of the outer dimension. So everything really has 12 dimensions. Whether it's 6 or 12, they are borders to the existence of that thing that's surrounded by these borders.
Bitzalel, I have dimension. Oh, never mind. You said dimension. Sorry.
And that thing of borders is that every existence has an up to here, but no further. It has either 6 or 12 borders. The beginning of the outspread to its limit starts with its point. And its point is higher than the level of self-realization. It knows itself, but its essential point is the higher than the level of self-realization. But through knowing that it has this point, it can realize how far its outspread could be. That's how Rambam explains self-realization. Who am I? The Pardes, which is a Kabbalah book by Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, explains the spheros of the world of Atzilus in similar terms. How each sphera, remember we've had this before, the 10 spheros? Each sphera.
This is the godly attributes.
Yes, each one knows what it emanates. Chochmah and Bina emanate emotions, and they know what they emanate. They know their own place, and they know from where they are emanated. But the difference between the Rambam and the Pardes is talking about a chain of descent. Rambam is talking about separateness. The stars are separate from the angels and separate from people. The Pardes, the Kabbalah, is talking about a connected progression. Rambam says further that angels recognize their creator, they recognize themselves, but not like the stars, they don't recognize people at all. they realize that their intelligence is higher and more spiritual than the sensitivity of people. It's different than the stars, which are connected to the world. Stars recognize that people have an intelligence, or they recognize their intelligence is higher than people. But angels are completely disconnected from people. The only time they have anything to do with people is when they are a messenger from Hashem.
Do they recognize the spirituality of the stars? The angels?
He doesn't say over here, but I assume they do. What angels do, they sing praises and they recognize their creator. That's what angels do. There's a story of two Chassidus. The older one says to the younger one, "Why are you singing your prayers? You're not an angel." The younger one says, "What do you mean? Of course I'm not an angel." The older one says, "Angels know what they're singing, the spiritual intention of the song, and they know to whom they are singing, but you don't know what you're singing, and you don't know to whom you're singing." But the intention of pointing out that knowledge and spiritual sensitivity of people is less than the stars is talking about human intelligence, but not the soul's intellectual realization of godliness, which is a godly intellect. It's a realization that's higher even than angels. Godly seichel starts with faith that Torah is true wisdom, and then internalizes that faith into intelligent realization. And it's accomplished by learning the inner secrets of Torah, primarily is expounded through Chabad Chassidus.
Bitzalel,
Yes.
an old guy and a young guy was davening together, and says the older to the younger, "You ain't no angel." And the young guy replies, "You ain't no star yourself."
That's not the way the Rebbe told the story.
I know this was just it was
Well, but that's how you heard those two guys, and they might have been a different two
it
guys.
was a different two guys.
We need to know how everything is above. That's godly intelligence. How everything is in its source. And the previous Rebbe, you want to do a nigga now while we're?
Yeah, he wants to do a niggin. Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, we will get back to the 4 questions, right? You know how like there's the Manistanas, the 4 questions. Who am I? Who are we? What time is it? And what's the point? That's the 4 questions. We'll get right back to
And
that.
there we go.
And now for a niggin. Give me something freilich. Oh yeah.
Okay, Freilich, you say.
The cycle song.
Okay, yeah, how about that? How about the cycle song?
The cycle. It's funny because the circle is like a cycle.
Yeah, circle is a cycle. Yeah.
Like that
It's
even
fun, it's a
cycle.
cycle. A cycle is a cycle.
Perfect. Along the lines of knowing the source for everything, there's a story that one time at a meal in the house of the Rebbe Rashab, one of his relatives brought up a discovery that the medical field had made, that there was some kind of vein in the brain. And when it flips one way, it helps in remembering. And when it flips the other way, it helps in concentration.
That's why people, when they concentrating, they lean forward, and when they're trying to remember, they go, let me see, they lean back a little bit.
Yeah, that's what he's going to say. And this guy was very, very excited by this discovery. And he told it to the Rebbe Rashab, who didn't comment on it. He made the bracha on the meal. He benched after the eating. And then he told the guy to wait a minute. And he came out with a notebook of handwriting. And it was in the handwriting in the Mittler Rebbe. And he showed him there were 6 or 7 pages that documented this vein. So the guy said, I knew the Mittler Rebbe was, a big Rebbe, but I didn't know he was a professor. I didn't know he was a scientist. He said he wasn't a scientist. He knew the godly man on the throne so well that he knew how he was constructed. And part of that godly man has this spiritual level of this brain which clicks between concentration and memory. And like our friend Gimel Aleph said, that's why when you want to remember, you put your head back. When you want to concentrate, you put your head forward.
I heard that from the Mittler Rebbe. I was there,
Oh, that's right. Brain power has 2 aspects. One, slow, careful analysis, which I assume means bina. And the second one is patience. But it doesn't mean patience to do the slow, careful analysis, even though every idea needs slow, careful analysis. By patience, it doesn't mean to express all sides of an idea patiently. That's still bina. But patience means with one glance accomplishes more than what words can. For example, a rose whose thorns scratch and puncture the rose strengthen and beautify the smell. And according to the Zohar, it weakens the thorns. And this symbolizes how we stand strong in the knowledge and wisdom we have internalized. That's the idea of patience. All the winds in the world cannot move us from our place. And obstacles and hindrances only serve to strengthen our faith and resolve. Like the well-known metaphor that in order to give out its oil, its essence, an olive needs to be crushed. This begs a deep question. In intellect, there's constant change. What you just described was this thing of patience, that when you view the truth of the thing, things don't change. But we're describing intellect, and intellect, there is change. When there's new information, you get a better understanding, but the change is only in the explanation. Every idea has an opposite interpretation. But when the idea comes into practice, in thought, speech, and action, the original bit of wisdom is contained in that thought, speech, and action. So there is no change. Every wisdom has to come to practical application. There is no wise person who has not been tested, meaning he had to bring his wisdom to a practical application. If the wisdom is not practically applied, it's not really a wisdom. When it comes to practical application, Makshava, Dibor, and Maisa contain the wisdom, not allowing changes due to intellectual change. The decision is made and it just has to be brought out practically. There's a well-known explanation of the first word of the Torah, Bereshis, in the beginning. And it's explained that there are two beginnings. Bereshis, base means two, and Reshis means beginning. One of them is the Torah, and the other is the Jews. The creation is for the Torah and the Jews. They're both called first. And for them, the creation happened. Nevertheless, Gimel Aleph knows this very well. It took about 2,000 years for the first Jew to come on the scene. Avraham Avinu. And even now, there are those who think the world is theirs and was created for them and their physical desires and needs. And they don't recognize at all what's higher than them. As Avraham, the first Jew, did recognize that there's a boss of the world. Until Abraham came along 2,000 years after the Torah, after creation. And when he was 3 or 9 years old, he recognized his creator. And the coming into the Torah into the world didn't happen for another almost 500 years, 448 years later. So even though the godly intention in creation is give Torah to the Jews, we have to look and see, well, why did it take so long? Chassidus explains the fact it took so long doesn't matter. The Jews finally got the Torah. It was the purpose all that time. Also, the revelation of Chassidus took time. First, there was revealed Chassidus only to special people. Then came the Baal Shem Tov and revealed it to everyone. Jews are the crown of beauty of the world. Torah is the crown of beauty of the Jews. Chassidus is the crown of beauty of the children of Torah.
Leib, I'll throw you a bone. Play something miserable. Oh. No, no, it was a great song. It was a joke.
Oh.
It was a joke. I was making Froggy a joke.
Now you want to play a miserable song?
Gezintahait.